When it comes to optics, learning to sight it in properly could be the difference between hitting your bullseye every time or missing it by a country mile. So howdy y'all, it's CJ with AT3 Tactical, and today we're going to help you get that optic quickly sighted in, so by the end you can run out, grab an optic that will work with your new or even old AR and get it whacking steel at 50, 100, or even 500 yards. So here's what you'll need to start sighting in your gun, and you're gonna need your cleaned, inspected, and properly lubricated gun. And if you don't know what I'm talking about there, you can go ahead and check out this video on the card right here. You're also gonna need an optic, of course, to slap on your gun, and then you're gonna need consistent ammo. And I'm gonna recommend using the ammo that you intend for your application, because different ammo is gonna perform differently, so I would recommend sticking with the same type, the same brand, the same load, same weight, everything for your sighting in process. Okay, now that we got everything, let's move to actually zeroing in an optic. And what we're gonna start out with is what I kinda call our final checks. What I like to do is actually break down the upper and look down the barrel and make sure that my reticle and where my barrel is pointing is somewhere close. This is gonna make sure that you're at least hitting paper before you actually start going out there and sighting in something. Then go ahead and put your upper back on and then start shooting. And I would recommend starting close at about 20 feet just to make sure that you're hitting paper to start out with. Then we can move to 50 yards. But why 50 yards? Well, when you sight in a rifle at 50 yards, the bullet actually rises slightly above the line of sight before dropping back down. This creates a trajectory where the bullet crosses the line of sight at 2 points, once at 50 yards and then again at approximately 200 yards. But, this is a big but, this does not mean that your 50-yard zero will also be a 200-yard zero. If you know that 200 yards, or any other distance for that matter, is where you'll want to be shooting, then go ahead and zero your optic at that distance, because that will make it as consistent and as accurate as possible. Next, you're gonna shoot 3 to 5 shots, and I would recommend shooting just as little as possible to figure out where your rounds are actually grouping up consistently and then adjusting from there. Now, if you are the 80% or so of shooters out there, you'll probably just end up eyeballing it and slowly walking your shots over to the bullseye until you get it locked in. Even though I've used this method in the past myself, there is a better way that can save you a lot of ammo and a lot of time by using the MOA formula. But to better understand this, we cooked up some handy visuals for you guys. So first of all, we need to understand MOA. And in simple terms, MOA helps you adjust your optic to hit the bullseye at your desired distance. Here's how it works, and it doesn't have to be scary, so let's break it down. To help you guys with this concept, we created a really handy chart. So let's go through it. The first element here is going to be target distance, and that's going to be at whatever target distance that you're shooting at. Could be 15 yards, could be 50 yards, but it is dependent on how far you're shooting. The next one is going to be the MOA at that distance. So if we look at the chart, again, each distance is going to correspond with an MOA. Next is going to be an input from you, and that's after you shoot, how many inches are you from the bullseye? It could be 3 inches, it could be 4 inches, up or down, left or right, doesn't necessarily matter, but that's going to be an input from you. The next is actually going to be the math that we're going to perform to figure out our MOA adjustment. And that is going to be your inches from the bullseye times your MOA. Once you times that, that is going to give you your MOA adjustment. Let's do a quick example to help us understand this more. So at 100 yards, that's going to be 1 MOA. Now you take a couple of shots and you're off by maybe 4, 3, or 6 inches from the center of the bullseye. You take that number and then you multiply that by 1, and that is going to give you your MOA adjustment. Let's go ahead and do another one. Let's do 50 yards. Okay, perfect. At 50 yards, that is going to be 6 MOA. Okay, you take another couple of shots, it's going to be about maybe 4 or 5 inches off. You're going to go ahead and multiply that number by 6. Again, that is going to give you your MOA adjustment. Okay, so what do we do with this number? Well, this is when it gets optics dependent. So depending on if your optic is a 1 click per MOA adjustment, a half an MOA adjustment, or even a quarter MOA adjustment, look at how many clicks your optic needs to adjust to 1 MOA and use this number from our calculation here to adjust your aim accordingly. Now, if you're still getting bad groups, I would recommend checking out the mount. Is it loose? Do you need to tighten it up? Or are you one of my friends who mounted your optic to your handguard? If you did, go ahead and make sure your optic is securely mounted to your receiver alone, because that is where it's supposed to be properly mounted for you to get those accurate shots. If you're still having trouble locking in your groups, I would recommend having a stable shooting platform. And this could be some sandbags on the gun bench, maybe even your backpack, or even a gun bag. Just make sure that you have a really solid and stable shooting platform so that you know that you're not the problem. It's your optic that needs to be adjusted. And with that, you have a way to sight in any optic in a super fast and easy way. Now, go hit the range and start training with it, because the thing that will help your accuracy the most is not some optic, it's training. Now, if you still aren't sure which optic you should be shooting with, if you don't know, and almost a million of you do, we got the complete optics Bible going over every kind of optic you can think of, and I mean all the things you need to know about optics. It's right here